what do we usually call this thing right here? What's that? Like in no, like okay, I'm looking for like the common name for this. Like what do you like when you eat a chicken and then it's the wishbone. Here's your wishbone. Okay, so we call this structure because it's not a bone, it's a structure. And it's the clavicles and interclavicles to make this structure. So it's not a furcula bone. Okay? Then these down here are the coracoids. And the only reason I mentioned this bone is called the scapula. I know it's not too hard, but you don't need to ID it. But it's because these three bones form this little hole right here. So we all learned that foramen means a hole. And then three bones coming together, trioceum. Foramen, trioceum. Okay, so that's your hole. So that's an adaptation for flight because it's a hole for a tendon to pull the supracoracoideus, which lifts the wings. Okay? So another adaptation for flight is this one right here. So this is the elongated sternum, and we call it the carina or the keel. So that's there. And that's for all flight muscle attachment. Okay? Alright, then another adaptation for flight is this thing right here, all along. See, it's completely fused. What's that? What's that idea of the fusion of all these vertebrae? So what was that called? Does anyone remember? No? Okay. No one's gotten that. Okay. It's called the synsacrum. Okay. It's composed of the thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and caudal vertebra. So what's the one missing? Cervical. Okay, good. All right. So that enables them a nice straight body for flight. Then for their front arm, this is the humerus. This one that kind of forms more of the elbow right here is the ulna. And then the small, skinnier one up here is the radius. And then this one that goes up right here, it's composed of the carpals and metacarpals. Dang it, I detached that. And that's the carpometacarpus. Okay? So carpal and metacarpals. Carpometacarpus. Okay? Then we have the femur. Then our little drumstick we eat. That's your tibiotarsus. And then your fibula is this really reduced one that's like almost fused together. And finally, this is your tarsals and metatarsals fused. So that's your tarsometatarsus. Okay? That's a chicken. Okay. Iguana, pectoral girdle. This is your suprascapula. This is your scapula. The line right here that forms your glenoid fossa, which is where your humerus goes in, that nice groove. That's the coracoid. Then right here is your sternum. And then this one's missing one on this side, but that's the clavicle on this side and the interclavicle on that side. Any questions about that one? Okay. So over these guys. So here's our cow and horse foot. So think of our cow as only standing on like the third and fourth digits. So these are the third and fourth digits. So those are just the third and fourth digits. However, the carpals and metacarpals and all these things are just kind of fused together, and collectively we call it the metapodial. So these are two separate digits though, so we call them the third and fourth metapodial. The dew claws would be the second and fifth. So those are like the actual ones we're standing on. The little ones that are on the back, those are the second and fifth metapodials. Okay? Then this one, the horse has diminished another digit completely, so they only stand on the third digit. There's your third phalange and your third metapodial. And on the back, they actually have the structure called split bones, and they're the second and fourth metapodial. Okay? Alright, cat limb bones. Alright, so you see this guy? That one, I don't have anything other than it just looks like a femur. Like, look at this guy. Like, it has that nice bone that everyone breaks when they're old, like that hip socket. Like, that just looks like a femur. It has a nice groove right over here for your kneecap. Like, that's just a nice femur. I don't know. It's good. Alright, next is this one. So, this is the tibia, and how I remember this is the tibia is you see how it goes across right here, and it goes across right here. That forms a T. So T for tibia. Okay? Okay. Then this is your fibula. It's just the skinniest little one. It's really, really tiny. It's the one that's super reduced on the chicken. It's just always going to be that one that you don't even think that you feel or you have. It's just that little tiny one in your leg. And that's your fibula. Be very careful of what you say when referring to these two, because if you say tibula or fibia, you can't confuse the two. So it's just like mixing the two together, and that's just going to be wrong. Like, you got to make sure you're careful about that. Okay. Then your arm bones. This one's the humerus, and I know it's the humerus because it has this little hole, and H for humerus for the hole. Okay? So if it has a hole, H for humerus. Okay? Then this one's the ulna, obviously because it has the U. U for ulna. Alright? Then this one right here. It's almost like perfectly straight, and it's called a radius. So I think of a radius of a circle. So you got like the center and the outer portion. That's your radius, right? It's that nice straight line across. So that's your radius. Okay? Everyone okay with that? Let's go to the vertebra. Okay. So this is the cervical, and how I know it's cervical is it has these two little holes on either side right here, and that's for blood flow. So think of that. That needs to be near your brain because your brain needs so much blood flow. Like, that needs to be close to your brain. Okay? It has a really small centrum. Does anyone remember what a centrum?
It's where the notochord is.
Where the notochord has what is turned into the notochord. Then it has a really kind of small neural spine. Really small neural spine. In contrast, here we have this big guy, and that's the thoracic vertebra, and it has a really long neural spine. Okay? So just think of like the muscles for a cat like need to be thick in this region so that they can kind of move that vertebra up and down in that kind of motion. Okay? And then, oh, they also have these rib facets. So here's your facet of your joint. It comes together with your rib and your thoracic vertebra. And it's a nice little